Hi, today we are going to solve a problem with a square root in it. Let's say we have the problem x equals 12 root x. Okay, in order to get rid of the square root in this problem, we want to isolate the square root. In other words, get the square root on one side of the equation without you having other things added or subtracted. So in this case, it's already on one side of the equation, and the 12 shouldn't be too much of a problem when we raise both sides of our equation times the second power to get rid of that radical. Now, be sure that if you are squaring both sides of your equation or raising it to any even power, that you are checking your answer. Because when you have squared both sides, you might be introducing an extraneous root. It's impossible to have the square root of a negative number. And by squaring both sides, you might be introducing the possibility of that negative answer coming out that really would be impossible. So make sure that you're checking your answer if you're raising both sides of an equation to some even power. So this becomes x squared equals 144x. Now notice, if that had been a 12 plus a root x within that problem, or 12 minus root x, then you would have had a binomial squared and it would have been much more complicated. And so you would have wanted to subtract the 12 to the other side first. But since it was just times, it was real easy just to take and square the 12 and square the root x. Okay, now we have a quadratic equation, so we want to get 0 on one side and everything else on the other. Now we can factor out the x. So we're left with x times x minus 144 is equal to 0. And now we set each factor equal to 0 and solve for x. So x equals 0, x minus 144 is equal to 0. And if we add 144 to both sides, we get x equals 144. And now is when we need to check both of these answers just to double check that we don't have an extraneous root, which could happen. You could do all your algebra right and get a wrong answer if you've squared both sides. So that's why you have to check your answer here. So if we put in 0 for x back into x in the original, always make sure you're checking back in the original, we would have 0 for x equals 12 times the square root of 0. And that comes out to be 0 equals 12 times 0. And 0 equals 0. So that one worked. It came out true. And now we'll check the other one with x equals 144. So we put in a 144 wherever we see an x in the problem. So 144 equals 12 times the square root of 144. The square root of 144 is 12, and 12 times 12 is 144. So we come out with 144 equals 144, and that one checks as well. So both of our answers were correct. X equals 0 and x equals 144. So we had an initial problem here, x equals 12 root x, and here are our answers, 0 and 144.